Hello and a warm welcome from the Silk Road Congress Centre here in Samarkand, where we're hosting our 2023 EBRD Annual Meeting and Business Forum. Actually, it's drawing to a close today. I'm sorry we're slightly late with starting this afternoon. We were coming straight from the Governor's plenary session, which finished only a short time ago, and so it just took us a while to get over here and get ready. So we're very grateful, I should say, to our hosts for what's been a very successful event and also for their very generous hospitality as well, which we've all enjoyed. The Governor's plenary session literally just came to an end, and it's not overusing the word, it's been a historic meeting for the EBRD, and Odile Renaud-Basso, our President, is going to update us on the outcomes of that meeting very shortly, but I just need to do a bit of housekeeping before we get to that so that you understand how you can participate in this media conference. So, there's translation in Uzbek, English and Russian. It's available on your headphones and your headsets. If you have the Interactio app, you will also find it there if you're watching online. You can ask questions on slido.com. Those that were here last year remember how we do that. I think you've got a QR code on the front of the seat. And if you scan that, that's the easiest way of, if you're in the room, getting the code. If you're not in the room, I can't see it on the screen, the number that you have to enter into slido.com is 4276 885, and from there you select President's Press Conference and you'll be able to type your question in there, and I've got a screen that I'll be able to see them when they come in shortly. Of course, I should have mentioned the old-fashioned way, which is if you want to stand up and ask a question, we'll give you a microphone. I believe that's how they used to do it, but we'll see if we can get that working as well. So, without further ado, I think I'm going to hand the floor to Odile, and then after that, we'll take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, and very happy to be here today and to report you about the annual meeting we just had, which is we had a Board of Governors this morning the Board of Governors approved decisions which are amongst the most consequential for the bank in the bank's history. There are three key components of this package of decision which will enable the bank to extend our work and deliver on our mandate, more impact for our countries of operation and beyond. First thing, we will extend our support to Ukraine as a key priority for the bank in wartime and in reconstruction, with the launch of a process for a capital increase, paid-in capital increase for the bank. Second component is we will extend our geographical reach with an agreement to expand our work in Sub-Saharan Africa and Iraq. And third point is we will extend the use of bank existing resources with measures responding to the capital adequacy framework review launched by the G20 and which came with some proposals that we are going to implement. So I'm really grateful for the support of our governors for this decision, and also I want to thank the staff of the bank who have worked tirelessly to bring this proposal forward and allowing us to reach an agreement today. These decisions come at the end of the successful annual meeting here and business forum here in Samarkand in the Silk Road Conference Center. And I would like to thank our host from Uzbekistan who helped us to bring here 2,500 guests from our shareholding countries, business partners, civil society organizations, and media. An important part of the discussion, as usual, is also to discuss what we are doing in Uzbekistan, future investment prospect in Uzbekistan and in Central Asia, and to focus also the discussion on the work we do on three strategic priority discussion for the bank, which are green, digital, and inclusion. But as I said to the governors this morning, Ukraine is the bank's top priority. And yesterday, in the opening session, with full participation of people joining here in Samarkand, I expressed that, I restated our condemnation of the Russian aggression on Ukraine and our unwavering commitment to support Ukraine. The resolution we have adopted this morning will allow us to continue this support. Our governors committed to provide the necessary support for Ukraine in the wartime and for the reconstruction, where we know that the amounts needed will be very important. And they underlined the role the EBRD has to play in and will have to play in this now and in the future. They also agreed, and this is a very important component of the discussion, they also agreed that paid-in capital is the most efficient, effective, and fairly shared instrument to provide such support. So as a result, we now have a clear mandate to work on a concrete proposal with the Board of Directors on a potential paid-in capital increase to be submitted to the governors by the end of this year. It's important to underline the role EBRD is playing in Ukraine. We were the first international organization to invest in wartime in Ukraine to support the real economy and taking risk on our own balance sheet. We deployed 1.7 billion of investment last year, plus 200 million mobilized from partner banks. And we have committed, and we are well on track to deliver overall 3 billion euros of investment over 2022 and 2023. An increased paid-in capital will give us the means to sustain such a level of investment and to step up our investment in the reconstruction. So this will be very important for us to have the visibility to continue what we are doing now and to be able to increase even further when to support the reconstruction. And we had an intervention from the Ukraine's finance minister, Sergei Marchenko, who underlined the magnitude of the needs for Ukraine now and in the context of reconstruction. What we are doing is really focusing on maintain what is at the core of our mandate, which is maintaining and repairing essential infrastructure at the country's level, but also at municipal levels, financing energy companies, supporting the trade between Ukraine and the rest of the world, supporting also the private sector, food industry, SMEs, all investment promoted by the private sector that are absolutely fundamental to keep the economy going and keep the jobs and provided also resources to the government. So we will continue to do that, and this is a very strong commitment we have. We also have supported all the countries affected by the war, and it's very important to underline that the EBRD's activity overall in 2022 has been at exceptional level because we also supported energy security in the Western Balkans, in Moldova, food security in North Africa and Middle East, connectivity in Central Asia, capital market access in Eastern Europe. So the needs created by the context of post-pandemic, plus the impact of the war in Ukraine, food security crisis, energy crisis, all these trigger the context where the need for EBRD support has been very large, and we were able to really step up our commitment. We would not have been able to do that without the support of our shareholders and donors who provided grants and guarantees, which were very important in particular supporting our investment in Ukraine, and I really want to thank them for their commitment and generosity toward the bank. What is important also is this record level of investment have been reached with a high delivery on strategic qualitative targets. We have a very strong commitment to tackle climate change. This has been a priority for us for years, and to develop more sustainable economy. We were very happy to see that 50% of our investment have been in the last 2 years in the green sector, and it is a continued commitment we will continue to implement. In our proposal to expand to Sub-Saharan Africa and Iraq in a limited and incremental manner, we pledge not to lose focus on existing areas of cooperation, and it's very also important to underline that it's not a zero-sum game. We can do both, support Ukraine, support our countries of operation, and develop new investment in Sub-Saharan African countries and Iraq. There is a strong support for governors of the logic of expanding beyond our current region for only the 3rd time in history. So this is a big step forward. We had previous expansion. This is the 3rd one, and an important one. And they are fully convinced that we can add value based on our unique mandate, focus on the private sector and green transition to existing development partners in the region. And it's also a signal that global community has not lost sight of the need to support sub-Saharan countries and Iraq in their economic development as we do in many other countries. So supporting both Ukraine, current other countries of operation, and new countries is a signal of this capacity to cover a broad range of issues and help countries most in need. We don't expect to start investing in Sub-Saharan Africa. We expect to start investing in 2025, and this because we need to prepare to get the approval of the change of article of agreement for the bank. So it's a very structural process, which takes time in the countries that have to ratify it. But really, I want to underline the historic dimension of this decision taken today in Samarkand. It will shape the future of the bank in the next years, not only the next few years, but I think the real future of the bank. And what is very important for me and for the bank, I think, is the unity of our shareholders to support the EBRD strategic vision. At a time where there are some questions about the capacity of the international community to work together to tackle difficult challenges, this sense of unity is really outstanding and extremely positive. All the resolutions, including, importantly, on EBRD support to Ukraine, were adopted unanimously with the exception of 2 countries. And that level of support for all the strategic approach, Ukraine support, enlargement to Sub-Saharan Africa and Iraq, and best use of our capital is really worth underlining and noting and make us very proud of the role EBRD is playing in this difficult environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so we will take some questions now, and a quick reminder, if you're submitting a question via Slido, slido.com, the number 4276885, and you have to choose the President's press conference and enter in your text. And as I said, there's a QR code on the back of the chair. I see it's Joanna from The Economist. Yes, hello. Can we just wait for a microphone to reach you? Thank you. Which is Joanna Lillis from The Economist.
Thank you. I've been hearing a lot on the sidelines of this forum about severe constraints on the activity of civil society in Uzbekistan. And I'm aware personally of at least 2 incidents in which civil society activists have been harassed by security officers of whatever affiliation on these very premises. And also, in the run-up to this meeting, one watchdog published a report saying that the EBRD needs to do more, isn't doing enough to ensure investment projects respect human rights. So my question to the EBR President is, what's your reaction to all of that? Is the EBRD doing enough? And does it have any plans to do more? Thank you very much.
So this is a question we take very seriously. This is a question we discuss very directly and in depth with the authorities. I think that the situation in Uzbekistan has shown substantive progress in the last few years. You know that EBRD stopped investing in Uzbekistan for a long period of time. We've resumed our investment. Sorry. We resumed our investment in 2016-17. We and in accompanying a program of reform, but we are, very vigilant on these issues in a continuously monitoring the situation and engaging with the authorities on these very important issues for the bank. In our project, we also have some very important requirements and engaging with the civil society in order to improve and address any concern they may have on these issues.
Can I just say, I think you've also engaged with the CSO
and
groups yourself this week.
I personally engaged with the CSO in a very open, useful meeting, and I think I always engage in all visits, in all countries of operation. I'm having dedicated meeting with CSOs, but I think a wide range of staff and management from the bank during this annual meeting had a dedicated meeting on different themes. So it was an in-depth, and it's a continuing dialogue we have. So I think that we also consult, during meetings, during travels, and on key strategic decisions for the bank. Because when we have a country strategy being defined, and this will be the case for Uzbekistan in the future, we also consult with CSO, NGO, and when we have horizontal policy strategy, we do the same also. So this is a very important part of our work, and we really very highly appreciate the contribution and feedback we've got from the civil society.
Okay, I'll come to you in a minute, Ben. I'm just going to read a question that's come in on Slido. This is from Vince Chadwick of DevEx. He says, EBRD leads the Ukraine investment platform, which is separate from the multi-agency donor coordination platform. Why do we need a platform to coordinate another platform, he asks.
No, because I think the name of the platform is a bit, it's a wide, in reality, this the G7 Ukraine coordination platform is very focused on private sector investment. So it's an initiative we developed with development financial institutions which have the same mandate than us, which is investing in the private sector. And the idea is building on the very strong, deep knowledge of EBRD's in Ukraine and its very large portfolio of activities, clients-based and so forth, to help other DFIs and to join force with other DFIs who do not have necessarily the same presence on the ground, the same knowledge of private sector clients in the country, to help to bring them some project and share project pipeline in order to develop co-investment. So it's in a way to leverage on our expertise, know-how, deep client base in the country in order to leverage other DFIs financing them.
Okay, thank you. Ben, just want to identify yourself as well. Have you got a microphone? No, just coming. Just wait a moment.
Thank you. Ben Harris, I'm the editor of BNE and Telenews. Two questions. Which two countries objected to the change? And slightly half-serious question. When the EBRD was founded, I remember it had a mandate to help reconstruction of all the former Soviet Union post-Warsaw Pact countries. And the move into Africa is actually a big change from what the bank was originally intended to do. And finally, within that, could you give me some details of what your wartime priorities, what investments you can do in Ukraine while the war is still going on? Thank you very much.
So you will not be surprised by the two countries which are Russia and Belarus. We did not vote to support the resolutions. Indeed, Sub-Saharan Africa is a big change. It's not the first one, the bank, and the first enlargement of the mandate of the bank, because in 2011, in the context of the Arab Spring, there were already quite a large enlargement of the scope of the bank, with the giving the bank the capacity to invest and the mandate to invest in North Africa and the Middle East. So this was, and with the logic that, there were a lot of challenges in these countries. They are very close to part of the European neighborhood, and the bank expertise in supporting transition in countries, supporting private sector development would be beneficial to these countries and will contribute to accelerate their development. I think our activity there has been extremely successful, and we have shown that bringing EBRD as a new player, in an environment where there were other MDBs already involved, was also a way to enhance, the volume of overall investment and working well together. I think adding an institution really creates also new dynamics. And we bring, sorry, after two days of speaking, I'm a bit, EBRD brings something which is quite specific, which is even very specific, which is both the focus on the private sector, because we have an objective to have 75% of our investment in the private sector overall, and a strong policy reform agenda. And bringing the two, I think, is, as I was saying, proven successful in our original remit, but also in the new areas in which we intervene. And that, thereby the logic, and this has been an issue which has been deeply discussed, because it's, there have been discussions about this expansion in Sub-Saharan Africa since 4 years. 2018, to a lot of reflection, analysis, work in order to really measure what we could bring, and which brings us to the decision today. And on your last question on Ukraine, what we are doing, we will continue to do during the wartime what we have been doing last year, which is support key infrastructure, and we provided a lot of support, for example, to the electricity network company, Ukrenergo, which was subject, the network was subject to, has been or is still subject to regular bombing by the Russians. And they need financial means to repair very quickly in order to avoid blackouts and so forth. So this was one of our key priorities, but we also supported Ukraine to buy gas. We also supported the private sector, either through the banks with risk sharing program, or directly financing private sector investment in the agribusiness and so forth. And last point, but not least, very important, supporting trade finance. And so we will continue to do that. We also work with municipalities in order to help them addressing the urgent needs of their citizens in terms of infrastructure, access to water, heating systems, and so forth. So the needs are very important. We have a lot of demands, and we are really doing our utmost to deliver quickly.
Okay, we are going to finish in a few minutes. I'm afraid Odile has another engagement. Yes, do you please ask your question. I've got one more that I want to take from Slido as well, but the microphone's on its way. And again, please identify yourself.
Hi, Anita Horza from The Banker. I just wanted to get a better idea of what you're going to be investing in Sub-Saharan Africa. You also mentioned Iraq. And can you talk about any sort of banks that you are going to be working with in that region?
So the objective is to start investing in 6 countries. starting in 2025. So we have a bit of time to further fine-tune exactly the kind of partner bank and so forth. It will depend. On the countries, and it's difficult at that time to tell you. I mean, to identify specific banks. But what is clear is that we will focus on the private sector with our also. I mean, overall strategic priorities, the green agenda, and there is a lot of needs in terms of needs and potential in sub-Saharan Africa in terms of renewable investment, development, which we require development and grids, but also SME support, supporting equity investment. So I think all the kind of tools we have and which we already deploy in our current countries of operation. Sometimes these small countries, less advanced, will be also deployed in sub-Saharan Africa, starting with these 6 countries.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to just take this Slido question first. If there's time, I'll come to you afterwards, okay? So this is, actually it's still on the same subject. This is another question from Vince Chadwick. He wants to know how we add value beyond what other development banks are already doing. So how do we relate with the other development banks in sub-Saharan Africa? Yes.
So as I was saying, I think our quite unique trademark is to do this policy reform agenda and the private sector. And the policy reform agenda is very related to the private sector and very focused on developing policies that will enlarge the pipeline of projects, will facilitate investment later on. For example, we have been working in a lot of countries, including here in Uzbekistan, on what is the right regulatory framework to develop renewable. Auction mechanism which facilitate, transparent and cheap offer from developers to produce energy, and this is a kind of, it requires policy reform. So we engage with the countries in order to define the strategy to see how they can implement such strategy in their country, and then this will unlock a large number of projects. So I think this is quite a unique, and I take the example of the renewable, but there is a lot of work we've been doing in private sector environment, business environment, but also local currency financing, which is very, historically very specific feature and contribution from the EBRD. So, and last point, which is also very relevant in sub-Saharan Africa, is our capacity to do small projects. Overall, the size of the EBRD project, we can do very large projects, and in Uzbekistan we are doing very large projects in the green sector, but we are also able to do small projects, and this is a specific feature for the bank.
Okay, thank you. We'll just take one last question from the room, and then, no, sorry, it was somebody behind you.
Hello, I am Hulkar Murtazaeva. For a reporter for the Uzbekistan site Kalampurus, some foreign investors contact us about violation of their investment rights. For example, last winter season, there was an energy crisis in Uzbekistan. Because of this, the activities on the their activities on the industrial sorry.
That's okay.
Yep.
Maybe Anton can translate.
Of industrial enterprises were suspended, which caused them material damage. What do you think about Uzbekistan's investment guarantees?
So, we've been investing in Uzbekistan in quite large amounts of financing in the last few years, and we believe this is a good investment. There are things to invest and good projects in which to invest, but there are, the environment of the investment can always be improved, and that's why we have been very supportive and working very closely with the government to put in place a Foreign Investment Council. And we had the first meeting a few months ago, first inaugural meeting with the president. It's chaired by the president, Mirziyoyev, and it's a good place. We believe very much in this kind of framework in order to have an open, frank dialogue between the authorities of the countries and the investors on what are the challenges, what can be improved, what are the difficulties, and so forth. So, I mean, that's a good format to discuss these kind of issues, and I hope that this will deliver concrete results. We have already launched some very dedicated working groups on specific issues, tax, environment, and others, and that will contribute to further improve the investment climate.
Okay, I am going to cut it short there because actually the next really important thing we're going to do is brief our own staff on this announcements today, and we're running a bit behind today, so we're going to go and do that now. If you had any other questions that weren't dealt with, you can speak to somebody in our media team, and I'm sure they'll be able to give you any information you need. Can I just say thank you very much to Odile for answering all the questions. Thank you for your questions, and for those of you who came to join us in the audience. And that's it. Thank you. Goodbye.